We now have the pleasure of welcoming our next speaker, Janet Phan. She's the principal program and engineer for Microsoft and the founder and executive director of Thriving Elements, which is a nonprofit organization with the mission to create access and opportunities for underrepresented women in STEM through mentoring. Janet is also the author of the upcoming book, Boldly You, which comes out on March the 8th. And her organization, Thriving Elements, is based on her own real life experience, as Janet has often found that she is the only girl at the table, not only in the US, but also across the world. Today, Janet will be talking about the importance of mentoring for women in cyber and how to get and maintain a mentor with 7 key steps. Again, if you have any question during the presentation, please feel free to ask them in the Q&A section on the top right of your Hopin screen. There will be some time at the end of the presentation dedicated to your questions so that the speaker can reply. So, Janet, the floor is yours.
So thank you, Fabienne and Lucy, for the great introduction. My name is Janet Phan, and really honored to be here today to talk to you, share with you a bit about my story, my background, because I think that will help give you a good understanding of why I am so passionate about mentoring and why I'm so passionate about sending the message of mentoring. And so you joined this session because you are interested in the 7 key steps to thriving mentorship, meaning I'm going to share with you about how to get that mentor, start getting engaged, and then how to maintain the mentor. So a little bit about my background. My parents are refugees to the US from Vietnam because of the Vietnam War. So I'm first generation in my family to go to college, and so far still the only one to have gone to college. I grew up in the US with just very little money, and so it was a struggle for my parents just to keep food and on the table for my brother and I, and a roof over our heads. So when I say from surviving, when you see these 2 KFC buckets here and a Hollywood video, this is like, you know, those video rental stores in the US that you might think of, Blockbuster maybe. If you can go to present mode, that would be great.
Okay.
Yep. There you go. And then I did just all these odd jobs while I was in high school. And then also as I started going to college. But so when I was in high school, which was about 17, 18, I left my parents' house because it was just absolutely crazy trying to figure out how to grow up in an American culture and the clash of my parents raising me in a Vietnamese culture. So I ended up packing up my car with these 2 garbage bags full of clothes, and I started couch surfing all the way up until I went to university. And then that last piece of pictures there, I still continued my job at KFC while I was at university, and then working at 2 Bank of Americas. So if you think of like a UBS or Credit Suisse, a long time ago when you actually went into the banks to deposit and withdraw money, that was me, and I worked at 2 different banking centers while in university. And then if you can go to the next slide, until here today. So yeah, you can go to the next slide there.
Oh. Can you see?
Oh, there you are. And okay. So that was from surviving and then to thriving. So I, soon after university, I got a job in IT at the Boeing company, worked there for about 4.5 years, and then went into technology consulting at PwC. If any of you know, we have the PwC office in Erlikon, so that's how I got to Switzerland in the first place. And then I recently started at Microsoft. All incredible companies, and so thankful to be here today. And so as a result of working across all these 3 companies, I've been able to work with 36 different countries, or visited or worked 36 different countries and visited 51 countries. And when I think about how did I get here, you know, from living out of my car with garbage bags full of clothes and working at KFC for all of my weekends, summer and winter holidays. I was able to do all of this is because of my mentors, and you can see photos of some of my incredible mentors there, and some aren't pictured. So that takes me to this next exercise I want to share with you, and hopefully we can have a little bit of participation from the crowd. So next slide here. Oh, so sorry. This one is if you want to know a little bit more in detail about that story that I just shared with you in 90 seconds, there's a book that's going to be launched in March of 2022, which is International Women's Day on March 8th. You're welcome to check it out. It's already on Amazon. So the next slide. So this is an exercise. You can tell me what you see. So Lucy, just start clicking. These are just some photos. Keep clicking. And I want you to, these are all photos from me consulting in various countries. Yep, keep going, with various teams. This one's in South Africa. So yeah, keep flipping, and maybe somebody wants to share us what they observe in all of these pictures. Yep, you can stop there. Oh, go back.
One person said smiles and another said men.
Yeah. So smiles and men. Oh, I'm okay. Yeah. So because of this, then I started a mentoring program called Thriving Elements. It's a mentoring program for underserved, underrepresented girls who are interested in the STEM field. We've actually launched it in Switzerland, a school in Aargau and a school in Zug and Lucerne. And I can share with you more information about that offline. But if you're interested in it, feel free to check it out. So now, are you sharing?
I cannot share anymore. I don't know why it doesn't want to share.
Okay.
No worries. Fine. It's fine. Working.
Okay, there we go.
I'm sharing it.
Yeah, so yep, you can go past the nonprofit work here so we can get into why you guys are all here today. Keep going. Okay, the journey to finding your mentor. Next slide. So before you think about finding a mentor, it's important to be intentional about everything you do, honestly, why you joined this session, why you spent the hours you are in this Women in Cyber Day. And for the purposes of this conversation, what would you like to get mentoring about? So think about that, because that'll be important in terms of who you need to look for, what kind of industry is this person in, what do they do, what are their interests. So something to be mindful about. Next slide. There may be a bit. So how to start looking for your mentor. Yep, click.
Again? Okay, sorry.
No, this is good. Yep. So the first piece, like I was talking about, is search with intention. So who is it that you look up to? So once you have decided, what you need a mentor for, look for someone who you look up to, or someone's job you want, someone's job you're interested in learning more about. And then the next one is so once you found them, you want to butter them up, which is reaching out to them in some fashion, either through LinkedIn or seeing if somebody in LinkedIn is connected to them so they could do an introduction. For me, I have had not bad success just doing cold emails explaining why I want to connect with some leader or some person. So I think that's okay too. I think it's sometimes a personal barrier that we put on ourselves when we say, oh, well, this person might be too busy, or why would this person want to talk to me? And those are self-imposed restrictions. So I would also encourage you to let that down a bit so that you can get in contact with someone who inspires you. And then once you get connected with them, ask for the informational interview, let them know you're interested to learn more about them, and be specific with what are a couple of things that you would like to learn. And then that's when you schedule a meeting. And when you schedule this meeting, make sure it's not like in their office or even in their office building. Take them out of their element into a more neutral environment. And that makes the conversation a lot more comfortable. I mean, these days we can even ask, can we go on a coffee walk or a walk around the lake? Lake Zurich is very beautiful for those of you who work around here or live around here. I think those are a good neutral way. So then you also don't have like that desk in between you. Okay, next step. And then I'm also monitoring the chat. So if you guys have questions while I'm explaining any of these steps, I will be looking back and forth to make sure that I can answer all of them for you. All right. So for those of you who are familiar with American football, one of my favorite quarterbacks is from Seattle. And his quote is, "Separation is in the preparation." So now that you have that meeting set up, that first meeting set up with your potential mentor, what you want to do now is do more research. Even though you've already done research about them to even make that initial contact, now look to see if there are public articles about them. Are there notable achievements in their career, and maybe what they've done in the community? So the reason why this last piece I think is very important is because talking to them about the things that they do in the community is also a good way to lower the I guess the formality, so that you're not always talking about work, or you're not going in there and talking about exactly what you're looking to get mentoring on. But you can talk to them about if they're interested in like a lake cleanup or the rescue mission. So those things are very important to mention. If you discover that, then you can ask them about it. Then they will it will make you memorable for them. Okay, the next one.
Okay.
Are there mentoring programs in Switzerland for women in cyber? So that'll be a good question for Fabienne and Lucy. So I'll keep going here. So game time. Oh, go back. Oh,
Sorry.
go back. Yep, go back one to just number 5. So game time. This is when you have the meeting. So it's the day of the meeting. What you want to do is imagine yourself, walking up to the person. You're at a coffee shop, and you're getting ready to sit down. And it gets kind of nerve-wracking, especially if you don't know this person. What do you start talking about? So just start by asking something personal, like what did you do this weekend? If it's earlier in the week, or if it's later in the week, like a Thursday or Friday, you want to ask, oh, what are your plans for the weekend, or what are you looking forward to? And then the reason I have there, remember it, because these things are very important when you follow up with them later. You can say, oh, I remember that you were taking your kids to that football game. Like, how did it go? Did they win? Or like, how was that hike that you mentioned a few weeks ago? These are good entry points into the discussion. And then after you've made time to talk about personal things, then you can dive into the topics in which you wanted to meet with them for. And at this point, it's okay. So this last point here is, as much as you are interested in having them as your potential mentor, it is just as important, if not more important, that you pay attention to how interested are they in you. For example, people with a lot of knowledge, and I've seen this in even mentors of my students in Thriving Elements, is like they sit at a table with the student, and then they just like start blabbing, and then doesn't give any time for the student to talk because they're so excited to share about themselves or share about their knowledge. So what you want to make sure is, how interested are they in you? And how you can pick up on this is how much are they asking about the things you just talked to them about? And are they going deeper and deeper into these asks? Okay, and then the next one. So you're done with the session and with that coffee chat, and now you're headed back home. You want to take time to reflect and follow up. Think about, what did you learn? Think about what you learn, and if they resonate with what you're looking for, then you want to suggest a future meeting. And then it's important to write that thank you note. So not too often do people receive those thank you cards anymore, but I guarantee you will differentiate yourself from other people that they've met up with if you have a handwritten note card. And it's so easy to do that. And if not a handwritten note card, then an email following up and making sure that in that note you share what it was that you learned from them, and that's where this last bullet comes in. That if you were interested, then in that thank you note, you also suggest meeting again in the future. And my suggestion would be, after that first session, to meet with them in about 4 to 6 weeks, because that will give you some time to work on the things that you guys discussed that they may have suggested, and then allows you to send a follow-up note before your next session with them. Okay, and for the very last one, which is step 7, you want to start building that relationship. So this is what I was talking about. In between the meetings, you want to send short messages. Either, I think, through text is okay. If you believe it's somebody who is okay with texting you, or with an email, letting them know, hey, a few weeks ago when we met, you suggested that I did XYZ, and as a result, I did A, B, and C, and this is what happened. So sharing that with your potential mentor can mean so much to them, because they invested their time in you. So that is probably the most rewarding thing for a mentor, knowing that their time that they invested in you was valuable for you. And then when you get into the next meeting, you want to dive deeper into the topics that you had discussed from the last meeting, and you want to keep repeating this cycle of building this relationship. The follow-up, setting up the next meeting, follow-up, setting up the next meeting, so that for about, I'd say, 3 to 6 times before you ask them to be your mentor. And if you don't ever feel like you're comfortable asking them to be your mentor, something I've done before is, after several sessions, I would say, oh man, it's so helpful. Thank you for making the time. It's like you're my mentor or something. And I kind of wait and watch their reaction, and they would be like, ha, 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 or laughing. And yeah, of course, I would love to be your mentor. So that's a good tip for you if that's your style. But to be honest, if they're giving you the time consistently and they're providing you the information that you want and that you need, then there's no reason to be so formal about it. Just like in any dating relationship, there's some people don't like labels. So just get a feel for what it's like. Okay, next slide. So in this book, for the thriving element, I think it's really important, because as you are going through your mentoring journey, to be mindful of these 5 thriving elements. One is to show up for yourself. be open-minded. So like the conversations that are being brought up during your mentoring sessions to build your confidence. I know it's very nerve-wracking to have that first meeting or even second meeting, or even reaching out to them and following up with them 2 or 3 times because they didn't respond to your email. It's because they're busy, right? So building your confidence is very important. Being situationally aware. That's where I was sharing with you about, as much as you want them to be your mentor, it's important that you're watching to see how interested they are in you and your development. And then be biased for action. So that's not only wanting a mentor, knowing that you want a mentor and looking up all these people that you want to get connected with, but actually taking action and doing the things. And these aren't just related to mentoring, but for many aspects of your life. Next slide. So these are the different ways you can get in touch with me. I'm the most active actually on Instagram and on LinkedIn. You can scan this barcode. It's an older form, but there are other things that you can get in touch and engage with me about. JanetPhan.com has all of the information about the book. And as I said, on Amazon.com, you're welcome to pre-order the book. I hope to be doing some sort of in-person book launch once it comes out. So would love to meet all of you in person. Any questions? Do you think LinkedIn is a good platform for mentors and reach out to them since they can easily read? We can easily, yeah. Yes, absolutely, Miriam. I use that quite often. I've also, if they don't put their emails on there, I do a little bit of Facebook stalking. And if they publicly put their personal email on their public Facebook profile, then I'll reach out to them. There was this one CEO of a Google subsidiary that I wanted to work for. And I actually reached out to him because he was on some, on a public page on hiking. Like it was a hiking group that he was part of and he led it. So he's like, oh yes, we're going to be meeting at XYZ. If you guys have any questions, here's my number and my email. And I was like, okay, great. Like this is publicly posted. I'm going to email him. And I actually followed up with him a few times after he didn't respond to my initial email and he responded to me. So just giving you guys some stalking tips there.
Janet, I think there's also a question in the Q&A section.
Yep.
So it says, do you think mentorship in the technical space is different in any way to that in non-technical areas?
I think the reason why I wanted to bring this to women in cybersecurity is because you guys are more focused in the technology space. We are all more focused. So I think it would be easier to find that mentor, especially since it is widely known that there's a huge gender disparity in the cybersecurity space and in the tech space. And so reaching out to someone, asking for help will be, I think, a lot easier than somewhere that's general. But mentoring in general in the technical space, it will be different than in non-technical areas because you will have this more technical person in cybersecurity, hopefully, who will be able to help you with cybersecurity specific topics and get you introduced to their network of cybersecurity folks, women and men.
Okay, interesting. Maybe we have an extra 5 minutes, so we can have more question if needed. I'm checking the chat now. Okay, maybe one question for me was this. Thank you for the nice strategy because it's not obviously natural for many people. And maybe one question that I have is when you had to do that for the first time, was it that natural for you, or like what another advice could you give us or any people that are listening that would like to do that for the first time, like the thing that would really make it successful, or what to insist on, and things like that for the first one. And how did it went for you for the first time? How did you find your first mentor, maybe?
I think from my experience, it's very different, but I can put myself into the shoes of those who can be nervous their first time. And Gada, I also see your question there, so hopefully we'll to answer that. So from my experience, so with how I grew up and my circumstances, I think I naturally became comfortable with asking people for help at a very young age. So it was always something that was very natural for me. And through my jobs at Bank of America and KFC, there's this, I guess, phrase called upselling. So I'd always have to ask people if they want like 2 extra corn on a cob for $1, or if they want a credit card or whatever with their account. So it's been natural for me. But I think for someone who is trying this for the first time, this is why I've broken it down into these very simple steps and things that you can consider. I think we get nervous because it's, again, self-imposed. And the more that we do it, so for those of you who go to the gym or practicing some sort of sport, the more you do something, the easier it will be. I'm sure that first spin class with you was very difficult for you, or that first time you had to squat the bar. Squat the bar was also very difficult. But the more you do it, the more your muscles also get used to it. So I think it's something that you would have to allow yourself to take more reps.
Okay. So maybe we have 2 more minutes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or I think the next speaker is actually already here.
Yeah, but we can go until 4:05. There is a delay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So then we're going to take the last question.
Sorry.
Right.
So maybe we can reply. We have 2 minutes to reply to Gada's question.
Sure. What do you feel are the biggest obstacles women find in technology workspace in general? From my perspective, I think, the known ones are where men are, when you're in a room, they're often overpowering the conversation. I still experience it now from company to company. It hasn't been any different. I think there's also a challenge to prove yourself, unfortunately, and to show that, hey, you do belong at the table, because, and this is a whole nother topic, because of people's unconscious bias. I think I've experienced it less being at Microsoft. There's a lot of younger workers there. There's a huge diversity training, leadership, the top down. So I don't feel like I have to prove myself here. People just pull me in, ask me for guidance on XYZ on whatever I'm working on. But I think that's one of the biggest obstacles, is walking into a room, say you're leading it, or and they have some sort of feeling about you being in that room, whether or not they might not even know that they have some sort of feeling. So my suggestion would to be just show up for yourself and just be you, be unapologetically you. I see we're up for the time, but I wish I could. This is why I love in-person speaking engagements, because then I could talk to you, I could see you, I could talk to you after the speaking session. So those of you who want to connect, please connect with me. I'm in Zurich and would love to take a walk around the lake or have a coffee.
Thank you very much. Hopefully the next event will be physical in 22. So Janet and all the people present here, you're most welcome.
Yeah. Thank you for your presentation.
Which hopefully will be physical.
Yeah. And thank you so much, Fabienne and Lucy, for all your coordination and being part of this Women in Cyber Day event. It's so important that we have people like you and your team that you guys showed at the very beginning to pull this together. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janet.